Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey is a dungeon crawler JRPG and was originally released in 2009 for the Nintendo DS. I played the 3DS release titled SMT Strange Journey Redux. Redux features graphical enhancements, new story elements, a new dungeon, and is a definitive way to play the game. The combat stands beside the other Atlus JRPGs for its challenging and engaging combat, and is my reason you play this game. This is a turn-based JRPG that has a heavy focus on enemy resistances and weaknesses. With 8 different types of affinities and a huge variety of moves, every battle and combination of enemies demand your attention and strategy. Your player character gains resistances, weaknesses, and skills depending on the equipment they are wearing. You also have an active party of 3 demons, with other demons on standby you can swap between during battle. These demons have their own resistances, weaknesses, and skills that you'll be cycling throughout the game. In order to succeed, you must learn how to recruit and fuse demons in order to create stronger ones. I welcome these mechanics because you're constantly encouraged to experiment. You're always being introduced to new demons and strategies. It's an easy feeling of constant progression. Most of the bosses are a great strength check. Anytime I was having trouble with a boss, it wasn't my level that was the problem, it was the strategy and skills I was using. I fused my existing demons to create ones with better alignments, skills, and levels, and battled the bosses again with better results. This is an amazing compliment for a JRPG because the strength check doubles as a knowledge check and makes sure you have an understanding of the mechanics both in and outside of battle. Unique to Strange Journey is the co-op attack mechanic. When an enemy's weakness is hit, other members with the same alignment will perform a follow-up attack. There are 3 different alignments: Law, Chaos, and Neutral. The player character will have one of these 3 alignments based on the choices made in-game, and every type of demon is also assigned one alignment. You unlock abilities later in the game that make the co-op attacks more useful and flow a bit better, but compared to other Atlus JRPGs, this mechanic feels very undercooked. Co-op attacks limit your options and your party rather than giving the player more freedom, like with the press turn system in games like SMT 3 and 4. The combat visuals are simple but clear. The enemies are on the top screen and the player character and demons are on the bottom. Each type and strength of attack is shown with a unique animation. Important information is always accessible. A description of each attack is shown in the battle screen so you always know what each attack does. This is one of the harder turn-based JRPGs I've ever played because of the strong boss design and the long grind. I enjoy demon negotiation and concept. It's important that the demons are individuals with their own thoughts and ideals. This blends story with gameplay. However, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. The only guidance you're given to negotiate with demons is to get them in a good mood. With this and so many other variables, like the moon phases, out of your control, it becomes a roll of the dice whether what you say is liked or disliked by the demons. The player character also has a static alignment they get in the beginning of the game, so up until late important decisions you become locked to that alignment and have no impact on which demons favor you or don't. You could even negotiate correctly, offer items, life, and money to the demons, and they can still take all those gifts and just run. This can get annoying if you're trying to negotiate with specific demons. Later in the game, you're given abilities that bypass your mistakes during negotiation, skipping the problem instead of fixing it. My main gripes with Strange Journey is the game's structure and world. The hub area consists entirely of menus in just a couple rooms. One room for objective conversations with other NPCs, one for healing, and one for buying equipment and items. For the rest of the game, each area is on a grid-like maze, which serves as the main exploration. I don't like the structure of the game because there's no downtime in the dungeon crawling, nothing to break up the pace. The whole game is a grind, only with bits of story to keep you interested. The level design, especially the later dungeons, were offensive in wasting time and being difficult to navigate. Traps were tedious and artificially lengthened the game and mapping process. These areas are separated completely from one another with warp points in the hub menu, making exploration feel disconnected. I don't feel like I'm exploring a world, just on a ride to the next important area. The grid maps do little to make each area stand out and are visibly unappealing. For example, the trailer showed this shopping mall run by demons, which is a really cool concept and I wanted to visit it. Once I got there, it felt like every other area in the game, just with different wallpaper and traps. These areas don't look or feel lived in, they feel thrown together. The best thing I can say about the world and level design is it does feel rewarding once the areas are fully mapped out. If you need to go somewhere specific and are looking at a map you completed with your hard work, it feels good knowing exactly where to go. The story's premise was interesting. The Schwarzwelt, a black hole, appeared in Antarctica and the United Nations are sent to enter it and find a way to erase it. The story moves at a slow pace but eventually gets going. I do think that the seeds of the story are well placed and pay off. I really like the two main characters, Zaylene and Jimenez, and their place in the story. I think other SMT games told the spectrum of law, chaos, and neutrality more interestingly, but this was still good. There's no English voice acting for this game, which didn't bother me but is worth mentioning. I didn't like the soundtrack at all, it just wasn't a preference of mine. The majority of the music was slow, synth, orchestrated music and chanting, which I don't think translated well to the DS and 3DS. The music, while really good at reinforcing the themes of strife and survival, blended together. If you played me something that wasn't a battle theme, I probably couldn't tell you where in the game it was played. Going forward, these are my thoughts specific to the Redux edition. The new dungeon in Redux is called the Womb of Grief, and is first opened up to you pretty early. You must complete it to get the new true ending. This is a dungeon that you cannot get to the bottom of when it's first accessible to you. You must revisit it when you get new navigational upgrades. I enjoyed its inclusion mainly as a way to soften the blow of grinding. Whenever I needed to grind, I would revisit the Womb of Grief and explore it a little more. This would provide me with more experience and new areas to explore and demons to recruit, keeping the game fresh. I felt Alex's character seemed to be integrated into the plot in a really nice way. At first her inclusion seemed a bit jarring, but once all the characters set into their roles, Alex's role made more sense. The true final boss in Strange Journey Redux is the hardest final boss I've ever faced in a turn-based JRPG. It tested my strategy, endurance, and took advantage of all the game's mechanics. It was extremely rewarding to defeat. These are my thoughts relative to other SMT games and my personal recommendations. If you're looking for me to recommend an entry point into the SMT series, I would say stay away from this one. The combat's great, but it's visually bland and unapologetically wastes your time. I'd recommend playing SMT 4 or 3 or Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, as they have you explore more fleshed out worlds with more dynamic characters and stories. On top of that, they all have the press turn system, which is an even better version of the same combat system.